why the quest for immortality? Why can't we simply accept our mortal nature? Why doesn't eternity scare us? The word scares us, but we still want to become a part of something eternal. That doesn't scare us. Why? If you were to be pushed into something, there is no possibility of returning from. And if you were told that is your eternal state, you would not even ask about that state. You would not even ponder on whether it's a blissful state or a painful state, whether you would enjoy being there or not. You would first immediately reject that proposition. In that offer itself, there is a threat. The threat of something that you cannot change. It is eternity, beyond time, beyond all the limitations that we are familiar with. It takes a moment to truly understand the sheer weight of the word eternity. We use words very lightly in our day-to-day experiences. Words hardly have any consequence in our daily living. We can say something, we can go back and rearrange and change them if we don't like them. We can interpret the same word in so many different ways. Hence, it appears like, what is the big deal about eternity? Why should I not experience something eternal? Why should I not become immortal? Why should I not transcend the limitation of the mind and the body and experience something above and beyond me? As ideas, these are beautiful. Hence, it is not enlightenment that scares people. It's something else altogether. The process, what it takes to get there, what you need to hold on to, what you need to sacrifice, the sheer change in lifestyle is what people fear. If you were to give people enlightenment immediately, most people would want it. Why these two contradictory dimensions to the quest for immortality? Naturally, we should be afraid of it, just like we are afraid of anything that we are not familiar with. And to be offered something that we are unfamiliar with and to say that's going to be our eternal state should be the most scariest of things or scariest of propositions. And yet there is a part of us that wants it. What is this part? Why do we get in touch with this part once in a while? Why aren't we seeking immortality, enlightenment all the time? Why aren't we craving for it? Why aren't we longing for it? Why do we forget all about it and just go about doing our daily, mundane, routine things, knowing very well that this is not taking me any higher in my consciousness, in my awareness, in my understanding of life? There has to be something entirely different, very different from the mind, from our thoughts, that knows something about eternity. There has to be a part of us that is eternal, because eternity is eternity. It cannot be divided. It is not something you can step out of and step into. Isn't an individual's quest for immortality simply the immortal nature of the self wanting to see itself in its entirety? Otherwise, why would it long for immortality? Body cannot long for immortality. Mind cannot long for immortality, because we know very well that to live in this body, to be taking care of the body, to be tending to the body, to be guarding the body, as painful a process as it is, to be doing that for eternity, to be living in the body for all eternity should be regarded as the worst of all punishments. It is quite literally a solitary confinement. You are alone, stuck with this body, and you cannot get out of it. So, quest for immortality has nothing to do with the body. Hence, any thought process that misguides us, deludes us into believing that living longer is the purpose of life is the trick of the body. It has nothing to do with the self, it has nothing to do with the mind. It is just a projection of our self-image that we are wanting to hold on. Anyways, throughout our lives, we keep on patching up the body to align with our self-image. Self-image that is not even consistent, that is constantly changing. Ideas of youth, ideas of beauty, ideas of physical form appearing in a certain way. Hence, we are never satisfied with our bodies. It is easy to confuse this dissatisfaction with the body for a way of keeping this body forever. The desire for immortality is totally disconnected from the body. Body is a perishable thing. In fact, that is the beauty of the body. A plant that cannot get rid of its flowers would suffer with those flowers. It enjoys the flowers because it's momentary, because it has a purpose. It's a part of a transition. It is fulfilling a certain purpose, and then it is disappearing. The plant stays because there is something about that plant that is more real than the flower. It's exactly the same with the body and the mind. There is something about the mind that is more real than the body. Mind can live longer, much longer than the body, because it is made of something that cannot be easily taken away, something that cannot be easily destroyed. Yes, mind can also slowly wind down. Your thoughts can settle to a point where you can eventually transcend the realm of the mind, as in the realm of thinking. That is the symbolic depth of the mind. Mind never dies. Mind is consciousness itself. Mind is aliveness itself. But when you are able to transcend all your thoughts, we can use an expression, the mind is dead now, the mind is gone. A person without mind is no person. There's no individual. there are no desires, there are no thoughts, there are no actions. But he's not dead. Aliveness is the third. That part of us that is longing for immortality. Once in a while, when the needs of the body and the mind are satisfied, the self awakens, asserts itself, and says, I am not satisfied with this. When you're hungry, you cannot be thinking about immortality. You cannot be thinking about transcending the body and the mind. All you're thinking about is finding that little bit of nourishment to keep the body alive. If the needs of the body are not satisfied, you cannot think about the needs of the mind. If the needs of the mind are not satisfied, you cannot think about the needs of the self. It is the same progression. This is where individuals are stuck at different levels. Some are struggling to even survive. They have to wake up in the morning and do something to stay alive. In fact, most of the world, life is a way of keeping the body alive. Hence, they're not really thinking about higher spiritual knowledge, higher awakening, because although it is very natural for them to long for the highest, they are stuck somewhere lower. They are stuck with a body that needs care, that needs food, that needs nourishment. Hence, most of their thought processes are revolving around the body. Once they get to that place where they know that I have arranged my life in such a way, I don't have to worry about my body. At least I don't have to think about it all the time. There are two ways of doing it. Either physically you are put in a place where you never have to worry about the nourishment of the body. Either you're born rich or you are living in an environment where nourishing your body is the last thing you need to be worried about. This is one way. The other way is consciously understanding the nature of the body from inside. Once you understand what the body is, how much it needs, what it needs, somewhere you will disconnect from the needs of the body. You will find time for yourself. If you have not watched the body enough, it is easy to assume that my needs are the needs of the body. There is no separation at all because the watcher has not yet taken birth. You are just the body moving about. You are just a bundle of activities. Because there is no you there, there is no thinking about the needs of the you. And then there is the mind. After enough watching, you know the needs of the body. You have arranged your life in such a way that you know you're not going to die of starvation. And you also know all these thoughts, fearful thoughts that are connected to the body, most of them are purely imaginary. As long as you're stuck with the body, you're closest to the body, you will be afraid. It doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what's happening on the outside. The closeness to the body is enough for you to be afraid of losing the body because you're so attached to it. That's the only thing you are familiar with. Even when there is no danger, you imagine a danger. You imagine a problem and you try to solve those imaginary problems. Most people are stuck there. Needs of the body and projecting those needs far into the future and trying to solve all the problems that they will never encounter because of fear. Fear there is a creative force. Fear there is the impulse. But if you watch the body enough, you will get to a place where you will see there is another entity here which has its own desires, which is the mind. Anyways, mind and body are not two completely different things, but at the level where you are stuck, they are two very different things. The needs of the body are different from the needs of the mind. The needs of the mind are, compared to the body, endless. It's not something that you can satisfy. At least body, if you're hungry, there is the desire of the body to eat. Once it gets the nourishment, once you've eaten enough food, it stops thinking about food. At least for that moment, it is satisfied. But mind doesn't work like that. Because mind doesn't have a body, in its imaginary realm, it can go on eating the food as much as it wants and still feel hungry. Because there's no real body to satisfy, it is just thought process. The more you try to satisfy your thoughts, the more dissatisfied you become. This is why people are amazed as to how is it that I had much less at some point in time in my life. I hardly had any, and I didn't even have this much of thought process, this much of desiring. I mean, look at your childhood days. Such less understanding of security, safety, creating a life for yourself, building a life for yourself, and yet you were blissful in some sense. But now, with all these thought processes, with all this dreaming and intelligence and ability to make those dreams happen, still you are not just dissatisfied, you're more dissatisfied than when you were a child. Your dreaming process has become a big pit. You just keep on adding things to it. And you come back and search for them, they disappear. Then you have to create a new desire. You have to manifest new things without realizing that mind is a never-ending phenomenon. There is no beginning and end to the mind. If only instantaneously everything that you're longing for is given to you immediately, you will know how dissatisfied, how frustrated the mind will be. The only reason you are able to still stay with that dreaming process is because all your projections are somewhere in the future. There is a false hope. If only I can get there. If only I can get this done. And mind has its own ways of weaving its web. It uses the past and the future to keep you confused in the present. Ultimately, mind doesn't move anywhere. It has nowhere to go. Present is the only reality. But mind is so cunning. It is so artful in its trickery that it creates a real perception of the past and the future just so that you don't settle into the present moment. You keep on drifting. You live in this eternal state of trying to satisfy the mind. That's what the mind wants. The mind wants you to serve it while it pretends to be serving you. The mind is not serving you at all. It is serving its own dreams, its own desires. Because we have not made a distinction between the self and the mind, we have assumed that the desires of the mind are my desires. Every time we say, I am not happy because I don't have this, this has nothing to do with you. This is your mind. It's the trick of your mind. Because the mind knows very well that if you're happy, if you're contented, if you're joyful, what is the necessity for you to constantly keep bumping into the mind? You can leave it alone.